long-form open discussion podcast. Topics include sensitive issues such as sex, religion, politics, race, gender, death, BDSM, MFM, CFNM, MMF, MMFM, and healthcare. Do not try this at home.
Get your motherfucking ass up when I'm talking.
So hold on tight. The action starts now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
And here we go.
Did you like the cover picture?
Yeah, man, it made me walk through my house and actually look for hidden cameras.
I'm getting better at that, and then I figured out how to put the little icons for all the places they can listen to us, which includes Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, Apple Podcast, Podbean, YouTube, and basically anywhere you can get fucking podcasts, you can hear us. So,
I mean, what could they expect with a top of the line production like this?
Bro, we're doing pretty good. I changed the gain on my on the sound. So when I go full Sean, when I start yelling, I get all up there and I start doing my Mr. President. It doesn't come at your ears all explosively and shit. So it's all fucking great, son. There's something I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm glad I got you here. You're vaping. And seven people have died from vaping. It is a crisis.
Bullshit.
It is rampant in America. We need to stop this.
Well, I guess, I mean, technically it'd be vaping, but word is bond. It's just knockoff fucking California vapes that niggas are buying in the streets. And, you know, being a child, a teenager, a derelict, living in your mom's basement, whatever it is, in an illegal state, a state that does not recognize legal cannabis. When you get fucked up and you go to the doctor and then they're trying to investigate it, you gonna tell them niggas you got narcotics at home so they can storm your shit and seize your mom's property? No. You're gonna be like, I was vaping.
Hold on. So there's like this issue is like bifurcated. There's two roads about this. So there's the people. I don't know. So I guess vaping, like the flavored e-cigarette fucking oil shit, right? Or the juice, because it's oil if it's weed, it's juice if it's tobacco. Yeah. So people have died or gotten lung cancer or fucking they choked it while they're trying to deep throat or some crazy shit. But then at the same time, there were two brothers in Wisconsin who were like manufacturing THC oils, like bullshit ones, which is pretty rampant. I was in the cannabis industry. I still kind of have a foothold in it. Everybody thinks they can make it. You got a bunch of trim. You know, you got extra cash on you. You buy a rosin press. You want to make some fucking oil. It comes out looking like thick coffee because you dump a bunch of shit into it. But there was two, and they're white, I'd like to mention. The two brothers in Wisconsin
of course
were busted, according to the New York Times, which may or may not be fake news. Were busted early in the morning stillness of this manicured subdivision in southwestern Wisconsin. It was a white shuttered brick condo, jolting neighbors out of their bed. I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing about like most substances, any substance, is you're not going to get rid of the demand. So somebody's going to supply it. It's like crack cocaine. It's like fried food. Somebody fucking is always going to want that. So you got to have you got to have somebody trying to make some fucking money off it. And I do not disagree with it.
My whole problem with the shit is that when you make it so goddamn difficult for a motherfucker to be a legitimate, honest, upstanding businessman, niggas gotta take it to the garage. And when niggas take it to the garage, corners get cut. Education might not be there. The network based, the knowledge might not be there to do shit on the up and up with a solid, clean product. You know what I mean? And it's just like the fucking heroin junkies, you know what I'm saying? Niggas are fucked up because it's street heroin. You know what I'm saying? They did that little study and they took the motherfuckers up to Canada and then they gave them pharmaceutical grade clean heroin and the motherfuckers cleaned up within 6 months. Tracks disappeared, abscess went away. Them niggas was holding down jobs and half of them was completely off of drugs, not just maintaining. So, you know, it just goes to show. You know, it's just like when during Prohibition when niggas was cooking liquor in goddamn car radiators. They was getting lead poisoning and going blind from you know, the lead and the methanol because they wasn't pouring the foreshot off.
But you gotta do what you gotta do. If you're gonna drink some blueberry fucking moonshine, and you're gonna go blind, that should be your choice because this is America.
Yeah, I mean, do what you do, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Do what you do. Like I want clean shit, right? And if a nigga has a choice of buying some clean shit that you can trace back to a manufacturer from a store counter, or, you know, from a trap house, even remotely, even saving a couple bucks at the trap, I mean, you're probably going to buy the clean name brand product, you know, because it's built on reputation and accountability in theory. But, yeah, fuck that. When you make niggas criminals, this is what happens.
I mean, I can't really swing a dead cat in my life without hitting a garage manufacturer. Like, if you gave me 2 hours, I could probably get you 600 cartridges. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, like, you know, the problem is, right, is the knowledge base ain't there. So you got a bunch of niggas that think they know how to whip some shit. And just because it's safe to consume these XYZ substances in edible form or, you know, fucking freebase and injecting. I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Don't mean that they work together in a vape pen. You know, so when you go online, you get so much what people think that they're experts, and you're looking at all this information that's out there. 99% of it is death, right? So when you're reading and you're looking at how shit's actually made, you don't get the true stories because even though it's public, it's open source knowledge, people keep it to themselves. And they try and discourage niggas from knowing, you know, the leg that they have up because they don't want competition. So instead of it being like, yeah, man, this is how you make XYZ, they're like, here's ABC, nigga, go die. You know what I'm saying? So you can't just jump on Google. You can't just jump on Google, nigga, and learn to make cartridges. It don't work that way.
Well, it goes back to, and I've always stood by this, that this doesn't make me sound terrible, that ghetto rapper mentality is going to fuck people up because they're out there. Here's the thing. So if you really care about, like, if you're all capitalistic and you believe in, like, free enterprise and free markets, competition is a good thing. It's a fucking good thing.
Yeah.
But if you're like The Wire, if you're like the Barksdale organization and you're like, yo, I want my corners. I said that so white, corners. There's no second R in that. You know, I want my corners. Like I you know, it's just got to be up me. People got to be coming to me. Well, that's a monopoly, son, and that shit only lasts for so long. But you know, if you go, so when I lived in San Diego, you go to fucking Miramar Boulevard Avenue, whatever, Miramar Road. There's like 1,900 fucking carpet rug businesses right next to each other. Yeah. Like, if you ever needed to carpet or rug or floor your fucking home, you go there, and it is like a mile of them next to each other.
Yeah.
And they're all competing, and when people compete, the consumer wins. And here's the thing, too. It's not like cigarettes. You got some gross, nasty fucker buys a pack of cigarettes. They go in it, you go about it in like a couple days. People are constantly buying weed all the time. Yeah. There is not enough to go around. I personally believe that. And here in Michigan,
weed ain't like carpet. Weed don't last like, you know, 12 years like carpet does. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nigga, you know, you buy weed, you smoke it. I mean,
and here in Michigan, where there's a drought right now. So
yeah, there's a goddamn drought. There's a motherfucking drought because all these little 5-gallon bucket head ass niggas thought that all of a sudden they was gonna set up and grow, nigga, and it's a whole lot more expensive than the motherfucker thought.
Well,
because CFL goddamn lights ain't gonna motherfucking put out pounds.
I ended up talking the money guy into paying $300 more a pound because there's there's a drought. So he's up to 17, which is still pretty good in a drought state. You got about 8 months before it levels out, so everybody's trying to do what they do. And shout out to Lil Duval, and they're trying to smile, bitch. You know what I mean? But so I looked this up while we're talking because I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about you. So instead of going to like New York Times, instead of going to Fox News, I went straight to the fucking horse's mouth. Johns Hopkins Medicine.org, right? Johns Hopkins.
All right.
These are studies. I guess it's part of like when you're trying to be a doctor, right?
Yeah.
I'm speaking outside of my lane right now, but from what I've seen and read and heard, when you're trying to be a doctor, you have to publish something. Like when you're trying to be a doctor, you're like, "Oh, I've fucking discovered a way to do that." You got to publish whatever. That's whatever. Yeah. Mr. President. So, I found 5 truths you need to know about vaping.
Okay, tell me.
All right, so number 1, and you're gonna love this one.
Yeah.
Number 1 is vaping is less harmful than traditional smoking.
Oh, great.
And this is from johnshopkins.org. .org. This isn't .com. This isn't .net. This isn't Comcast. This is .org. You know you're getting it real when you're getting it from a .org.
Yeah. That sounds non-profit as fuck.
Yeah, right. But in a close number 2 coming at you from behind, number 2, vaping is still bad for your health, right? So you quit heroin.
What you're saying is the moment that you breathe anything other than atmospheric oxygen is dangerous. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, it's kind of like the old Dennis Miller joke when he's like, "It's smoke, dumbass. Would you build a campfire and stand there and breathe it in?"
I was be chilling, you know what I mean?
So clearly it's bad. You kick heroin, you get on methadone, it's still kind of hurting you.
Heroin,
but
methadone. I think methadone is worse than heroin. But go ahead.
But everybody has. Here's the thing: everybody has their vice. Everybody has something.
Yeah.
You got to have something. I jerk off way too much, right? You vape. People find their way because
like
life is hard. Life is hard. It's rough, and you got to find a way to get some enjoyment out of it. Because who knows? And you know Andy Kaufman. You remember Andy Kaufman?
Fuck no, but go ahead.
Jim Carrey did that movie Man on the Moon, the comic about Andy Kaufman. Well, that motherfucker did not smoke and died of lung cancer. Yeah. Life is short. You got to find a way to make yourself happy, right? Yeah. So number 3 on hopkinsmedicine.org is electronic cigarettes are just as addictive as traditional ones, which kind of piggybacks off number 2.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I kind of find that bullshit, nigga, you know what I'm saying? Because what if you one of these niggas that vape zero nicotine, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't even vape nicotine.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that's a fucking thing.
I am coming into this as like as a lay person. I know nothing about vaping.
I mean, nigga, the sugar-free fucking chewing gum is more dangerous for you than vaping, nigga. You know what I'm saying? And it's fucking cancer-ridden, goddamn fucking chewy shit that you can't even blow bubbles with. You know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? Nigga, Johns Hopkins, nigga, they can suck a dick too. I mean, maybe not.
Yeah, they can. JohnsHopkins.org. You can suck a dick.
Shot. I might have. You know what I'm saying? But you know, fuck them, nigga. I don't know John. I don't know John Hopkins.
Shout out to John.
Who the fuck is John Hopkins?
Shout out to Johns Hopkins. You can be a sponsor. He's a dude. Yeah, he was the first guy to discover mixing cherry. He was the first guy to discover how you can go into 7-Eleven and mix the cherry and the Coke Slurpees together.
Probably so. I bet you.
So
bullshit. There's probably some shit like that.
Yeah, somebody did that shit. You know what? So you know what? Like the side note. You know 420.
Yeah.
Like how that started.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it was some. Well, no, I think it was high school actually. It started somewhere in California.
It was in a break or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really believe those origin stories, but it sounds plausible.
Right, and it was in San Rafael in California, and at 420 they used to go out and smoke. I guess I don't know. You know when you're high, and you think of dumb shit and you go with it. 420 probably sat in their mind. They're like, you know what, man, that fucking sounds awesome. It's not the same as 515. It's not good it's not as good as a quarter after 7.
Yeah, it's a stoner genius. Yeah, one of those.
Like I remember when I was high as shit one time. And I was trying to make a point to somebody that I was like, if humans started eating feces like 100 years ago, by now we would have found a way to make feces taste really good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? Which, now that I said it out louder, I'm not high. That actually makes sense. But anyways.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, whatever environment you're raised in, it's normal. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it may be, whether it's drinking coffee or it's, fucking backpack bombing, whatever the fuck it is, you know what I'm saying?
So moving on, number 4, electronic cigarettes aren't the best smoking cessation tool. It's a lot of big words out there. Although they've been marketed as an aid to help you quit smoking, e-cigarettes have not received Food and Drug Administration. You know what? Let's put the kibosh on this. Bro, I used to work in a pharmaceutical wholesaler. All right, so they manufacture drugs for Pfizer and Merck. It's a Herculean task to get something fucking Food and Drug Administration approved. So a lot of places aren't even doing it. And on top of that, what standards do the Food and Drug Administration set? You know what I mean? So I would say there's more products out there on the market available to the public that have not been, this statement has not been approved by the fuck the Food and Drug Administration. Fuck them and the smallest child in their family. All right? This is America. If I want to boot heroin with some fucking little black flecks inside it into my veins, it's my business.
Yeah, it's your
you know what I mean?
Nigga.
It's a weird thing, but it's choices. You choose to do that. It's like the fake news thing. It's like the fake news thing, right? Well, yeah, there is fake news. It's always existed. It will still always exist. You need to be a little bit smarter and do your fucking research.
Well, you like to believe in fucking integrity and fucking leadership and awesomeness, you know what I'm saying? But that's not the world we live in.
That's not the world we live in.
It's disgusting and it's fucking hypocritical and it's fucking a bucket of crabs and niggas want to stand on the shoulders of a bunch of other niggas and shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
hey, you brought up a good point.
Niggas, man.
You're from Florida, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and I don't hold that against you. What's up with the blue crabs? Are they good?
What do you mean about blue crabs?
Are they good?
Crabs are good as fuck.
Blue crabs?
Blue crabs.
I'm just wondering because I saw that Plies video where he's like, "Yeah, Mo, I got something for your monkey ass," because he ordered some blue crabs and they fucking flew it in, and they were in
crabs are just a little more work. You know what I mean?
Than lobster.
Like blue crabs are a little more work than like snow crabs because the body's smaller. So you got to work a little harder for the meat.
What's up with those soft shell crabs? Where they like deep fry the whole thing?
Yeah, you deep fry them and eat them bitches. Well, you pull out the little fingers, you know what I'm saying, the gills. But,
like, I don't mind seafood. Like, I like seafood. I don't mind it. I dig it. I like shrimp. Like a motherfucker.
Y'all motherfuckers like farm-raised tilapia.
No, tilapia is disgusting, dude.
I was in Sam's earlier, and this white bitch, she like 40-something years old, and she had this nigga with a cut-off sleeve shirt with this little gold rope chain that was almost too small for him. And she's talking about, you like tilapia? And I was like, yeah, I like tilapia. And I'm like, you fucking wieners. You know what I'm saying? Y'all motherfuckers need to go out and choke on
tilapia. So for those who don't know, tilapia is man-made. It is not a natural fish. Somebody fucking created that in a lab. It is the Frankenstein of fish. Somebody's like, let's take a fucking penguin and a chicken, right? And some fucking protein and soy and make a fucking fish. It's not real.
Yeah, I don't know. That motherfucker, they pump full of antibiotics and raise them in shit ponds in Africa and China and shit.
In Africa? Madonna, give me my baby back.
Yeah.
So moving on to number 5, Johnny Hopkins, number 5. A new generation is getting hooked on nicotine. Yeah, motherfucker. In the 1950s, you guys had doctors that were telling you the best brand of cigarette to smoke. Well, but 9 out of 10 doctors prefer Camels because they're good for your throat. Doctors!
Yeah, these motherfuckers are stupid as fuck.
I'm not trying to be cynical here, dude. Or I am, and I just don't care. But, like, come on. Man, you're not... Name one thing in this world that that the majority of people, like, look down on that we have eradicated. Nothing. It's part of the human condition. People will do things. There will always be cigarette smokers. There will always be heroin addicts. There will always be pedophiles. There will always be criminals. You know what I call that? Fucking job security, son.
I don't know, my nigga. Criminals is in the eye of the beholder. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really in the writing of the laws. You know, so and depending on what country, hell, even what state or county you're in now. You know, what's legal and acceptable in one area is fucking life in prison in another area, you know, so.
That's why you're weird about growing weed where you are, as opposed to coming to Michigan because we have legal laws.
Criminal is definitely a very broad spectrum fucking word, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, even in, like, you can go to California, which has been the forefront of legality. They've had marijuana laws since like 1997. There's still people that get illegally busted.
Yeah, California is an absolute clusterfuck, my nigga. You know what I mean? Like,
no, Kentucky is a clusterfuck. California is the 6th largest economy in the world.
Yeah, but they're still a clusterfuck. And
they are a clusterfuck.
Yeah, it's horrendous. It's fucking horrendous. No one who makes less than $1 million a year is happy living in California.
Calm down, pump the brakes. I think if you make $100,000 in CA, you can live good. But that's the minimum. That's the minimum.
Yeah, 100,000, and you need to live in Northern California in the fucking forest somewhere.
And here's the thing that people don't realize is, like, you know, unless you have an actual salary, unless you look on your, like, tax returns and your fucking, you know, line 5 says you make $100K, that's a monumental task for a lot of people. You spoke briefly that you had reached $100K a couple of times, but I'm sure that you've put in just an insurmountable amount of hours to get there. It's a thing, you know what I mean? So if, like, you're a doctor, if you're an engineer of some sort, you're making really good fucking money. But in California, if you want to live comfortably, if you want to live the way people live in like 48 other states, you need to be pulling in 6 figures minimum.
Minimum.
I'm just that way. That's paying. That's paying like $30,000 a year. So they say you should never pay more than like 30% of your income to your living expense, to your cost of living. I'm gonna go on a limb. I don't have the figure in front of me. I'm gonna say it's gonna cost you like $27,000 or $2,700 a month to have a decent livable house. Say you're renting in California.
Yeah, but 100,000 is imaginary to most people. Most people are not going to ever make over 30,000. You know, and that's the world that we live in. You know, so credit has allowed people to simulate quality of life, but they don't have it. You know, and it's like me, right, living on my pocket with no credit. It's been almost impossible to retain any of my money because I've had to rebuild my entire existence. But if I could maintain consistency for about 3 years at that level, then money would come in and money would be retained. I could outwork my spend rate, my burn rate, if you would. But
well, here's the thing.
I mean, that's what it is, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's the thing is, as long as another nigga's making decisions about your paycheck, nigga, there is no such thing as stability. Because another nigga, his mood, his argument with his wife, his divorce, his embezzlement, a bad business deal, a fucking underfigure on the cost of a job, whatever the case may be, some nigga in China making it for less, your future, your credit, your stability, your wife, your marriage, your family, your car, all that shit you got on credit could disappear in the blink of a fucking eye.
Well, and here's what I was gonna say. Hi, my name is Sean. Hi, Sean. I'm currently working as a garbage truck driver.
That's fucking awesome, though.
Which is whatever. And I'll be the first person to say it's not that bad a gig. But whatever. Garbage has a weird, sweet smell to it that's kind of like across the board. But anyways, 90% of the fleet that we have, that we drive with, can pick up and acquire the trash into the truck without having the driver to get out of the cab.
Yeah.
So I use when I use one of the rear load trucks, what I do is I pull up and I put one of your totes on the back of it, and there's a little hydraulic machine that lifts the tote and it dumps it into the back, and I push some machines and it crushes it and pulls it in. It's not a lot of effort to me. And then we even have a machine that actually you can drive up to one of your totes and it picks it up for you and dumps it without you ever having to get out of the truck. So I said that to say this. We are definitely heading into an area of life where automation is 100% taking over what we do.
Yeah.
This isn't the 70s where I'd have to jump my happy fat ass out of a truck. I'd have to lift a heavy can. I'd have to dump it in there. I'm tired. My back's fucking breaking. Like, there's buttons and switches and hydraulic fluid that does most of the work. And I think it's only going to get more and more expansive in terms of like what people do, because you have people who do laborious things, and then you have the industry of the people who are trying to figure out how to reduce the laborious things. We're trying to reduce the amount of people on the front lines of wars because we have drones. Henry Ford came out and did the assembly line. If you've ever worked in manufacturing, there's a thing called lean manufacturing where they try to reduce the amount of steps that you would take. We're going to hit a point in society where automation takes care of a lot of things for us, and then the people who are
too many humans.
There's
too many humans, nigga, for that.
Right, and then shout out to the pro-life crowd. The people, the highly technical, skilled people that know how to push buttons and fix things, they're going to be okay. But there's going to be a giant percentage of fucking people out there who they're going to be like, we don't really kind of need you because the guy that knows how to push buttons can just push buttons, Yeah. And then now I'm just dipping my toe in this. I'm not trying to say I agree with it or not. And a lot of people have talked about it. And if you watch any of the Democratic debates recently, which you probably should, but people don't because they're so fucking politically divisive, they're going to be like, oh, fuck you, dude, it's a retard show. Side note, the Democratic debates in 2016, they were talking about dick size. So anyways, they're Andrew Yang is one of the guys. I don't know if I like him or not, but he talks about UBI, which is Universal Basic Income. Universal Basic Income. There's certain countries in the world that are actually testing it out, where each registered citizen of the country receives a certain amount per month to cover basic necessities of their life, to cover rent, to cover gas, food, whatever.
Yeah.
And his reasoning is that there will be a point where a large percentage of this country will be unemployable because automation has taken over your job.
I think that in it's murky water, right? It's such a huge step for people to grasp, but I think that would simplify so many government programs, and we're probably spending enough money on the supervision and division of those funds right now in different programs, whether it's HUD, it's food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, all that stuff, Social Security wrapped together. That if you just went ahead and put it under one umbrella and said, "I'm gonna give you a basic fucking check and health insurance," then it's streamlined. There's no bureaucracy to jump through. You know what I mean?
Well, and then okay. So we were talking about California. It's a shit show. It is. The biggest problem with California is gentrification. Gentrification is it's like a real estate concept, cost of living, to where so you have the coastal cities where you live in Malibu, La Jolla, you live close to the water where the dirt meets the sand. It's going to cost you a lot of money because it's nice. It's very nice. I'm not going to lie. And they start fixing up, and people who have money move to those areas. The tax base is higher. The places are nicer, and it starts to kind of just like bleed off, a couple blocks into miles away from where the people live, and then, the prices go up, and then the prices go up. So you live 3 miles away from the beach. Well, you're still going to be paying a lot of money than the people who live more money than people who live 10 miles from the beach.
Yeah.
And that's another issue that's kind of coinciding and meeting with when you're talking about universal basic income and Bernie Sanders, Mr. President. Bernie Sanders is introducing a rent control concept. Now, you hear rent control, you immediately want to put on an SS Nazi helmet and start beating and ethnically cleansing things, but it's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed and looked at.
You can't tell a nigga. And that was something I was gonna touch on before. It's kind of awesome that you walked into it, but that's the problem, nigga. You're renting another nigga's shit. You know what I'm saying? And nigga can charge what he wants for his shit. Bottom line, there's no way you can tell another nigga what he has to fucking charge you to uphold, upkeep, maintain, and profit from his motherfucking shit. If you want to rent control, buy your own fucking house.
Well, the idea being is that the people that own, so a large percentage of our economy are people that buy homes, they invest, and then they rent them out, and then they make money. It's income property.
Yeah.
And that's generally based on taxes, property taxes, cost of living in the area. Yeah. So the base idea of like what Bernie said, Mr. President, what he's talking about is controlling those factors that make people decide what they're going to charge. Now, there's a weird concept. You've been out there. I've been out there. North Dakota. North Dakota is a weird gray area because you go out there. There's so much money. You got the skinniest, unknowledgeable, unskilled dumbass who can fucking drag his knuckles out there, and as long as he can stand on a pad for fucking 15 hours a day, he's gonna make $60,000 to $70,000 a year, which is a good living. And because of that, Walmart ends up paying $17 an hour. Gas stations end up paying $16 an hour, and because of that, because the tax base is so high, then you got people renting out 3-bedroom mobile homes, and they're saying, well, I'm going to charge you $3,800 a month for a 3-bedroom mobile home. Which, I don't care what the fuck is going on. That is unconscionable. That is terrible. You're a horrible, selfish, shitty, greedy person.
But being a horrible, greedy person and the government telling you what you got to charge for it, is two different fucking things, man.
Well, it's like abortion. Do you want the government telling you what to do, or are we going to say killing people?
The problem with like rent control is if you look at it, it's generational, right? You go to New York City, right, in some of the boroughs there. I'm not real familiar with the actual, which section is which, but you've had people for generations living in the same fucking apartment building. You know what I'm saying? and whether their income is increased or not, it's rent fucking controlled, so it's like, get the fuck on, right? And sometimes in order to prosper, you got to move your fucking family, and you living in another man's shit. I mean, no matter how you look at it, if the government wants to rent control, go on and build them up some more projects that's not tax subsidized, and let them build nice little fucking apartment buildings to put poor people in. And then when the poor people turn it into a goddamn crime haven because, they're just completely 100% fucking enabled to not obtain and not to better themselves and not to strive for anything fucking different 3 generations later, get the fuck out of here. We're going to be in the same fucking predicament. You know what I mean?
Well, and I agree.
And I say this having lived in a vehicle numerous times in my life. I've lived in a vehicle. I have lived in a fucking vehicle. You know what I'm saying? For extended periods of time. And I say that having done that. You know what I mean?
And this goes back to the title of the episode, which is The Pursuit of Happiness. And it kind of ties in with it all ties together when we're talking about universal basic income, where we're talking about the way the world is, the fucking economy that people are getting into. Things are becoming automated. Can you imagine now? So we do this, right? You and I do the podcast, and we do this because I want to make people laugh. You do this because you really want to impress me. So no, but we do this because we like it, because it's interesting, because we have something to say. We want to say things in an entertaining way. Yeah. Out of all the downfalls that both of us have had recently, we don't give up because there's a lot of people that give up. There's a lot of people that say, fuck it, I'm on my $12 an hour at Kmart and I'm just that's what I do. But we don't feel that. And I think that society as a whole is moving into a fucking section where maybe we need to start concentrating on what people want, the creativity, the things that make us human. In the early 1900s. So, for example, my oldest son. I was hanging out with him today. I hadn't seen him in a while, so I took him out to breakfast. We're up in an area. The area that we live in, they kind of like lean a lot on history as part of, like the economy. Where like, check this out, it's what we used to do back in the day, and that's what shaped who we are today. I was looking at a thing. It was a ferry boat because there's a couple islands in the northern part of Michigan, Mackinac Island, Boblo Island, Drummond Island, Beaver Island, where people used to go, and that creates the economy and that creates revenue. And there were guys, at the bottom of a ship. These are steamships, and they work and they shovel coal, which is a terrible job. It's hot. You're probably getting burned a lot. You got to rake the fucking the basins out and stuff like that. And people worked hard. At the turn of the century, we still had before child labor laws. Young children were working in coal mines. They were working in factories. But we've evolved to this fucking point, right? So here's a 9-year-old working in a factory, moving a bucket of bolts back and forth 100 times a day, taking it to one area. He's fucking working 15 hours. A lot of kids were uneducated. They didn't go to school. But here we are now. We're a trash truck. You don't even have to get out for it to dump your fucking trash. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's a good fucking thing that we move into a society where people can say they can stop. And we can go back to when we were children. I'm going to say like 12, 13 years old, right? When you first looked at yourself and you go, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to be a veterinarian.
You're not going to do that because we still have an in-a-box mentality where instead of in 9th, 10th grade when people are starting to really discover who they are and realizing some people ain't good at math, some people ain't good at English lit and so forth like that.
Right, and that's fine. But we need artists. We need musicians. We need cooks.
Instead of emphasizing on their strengths and weaknesses and the roles that and what they have to contribute and offer, we still try to put everyone in a box and say, no, you got to have your 4 core, you got to do X, Y, Z, And then when you do go to college, we're going to overburden you with too much money because you're taking a bunch of unnecessary classes that have nothing to do with the profession you're actually after. You know what I mean? So English Lit has zero to do with medicine school. Revolutionary history. Liberal arts have zero to do with med school, so forth. You know what I'm saying? So I think it would be just way smarter to streamline people and put them straight into the classes and courses that are going to, actually prop them up and build the economy and a stable future for people. If you're going to be an artist, if you're going to play the trumpet, if you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to be a fucking, a mason, whatever it is, by the time you're in 9th, 10th grade, you're pretty much defining what kind of adult and who you're going to be. You know what I mean?
Well, let's go back. Let's say 25 years, right? When young Thomas, 6 feet and 300 pounds ago, when you were a young child.
Damn.
When you were a young kid, dude, what the fuck? Be honest with me. It's you and me. Nobody cares. What did you want to do?
I wanted to own a titty bar.
You wanted to own a titty bar. You wanted to.
Yeah.
You wanted to be around beautiful women all day. You knew there was a lot of money in it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
At 13 years old, I wanted to own a titty bar.
And that's okay because Richard Pryor grew up in a whorehouse. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's a weird thing. Like whatever job I've been doing, I'm on my. Anybody keeping track that's been listening, I'm on my 56th job at this point. Yeah, I know it's fucking insane, dude. That's why I'm saying I need to be famous one day because that story needs to be told. Not like it's insane that I've had 56 jobs, and it's not for because I'm a piece of shit. Well, the first 15 were, but it's just because whatever. So I always talk to people like I like to. We're gonna start patting ourselves on the back, and that's what I think a lot of people need to do. I have a talent where I can, anybody that I talk to, I can feel them out a little bit. I can find out what they like, and we conversate about that, and then they open up, and I feel you get better connections with people like that. So that's one thing I do like about myself. I always like to find out what people always wanted to do. What did you want to do? You 56 jobs, you work in shitty oil field, I'm a garbage truck driver, you do this, that, the other thing. What did you want to do when you were unfettered by bills and wants and needs and all that shit? What did you want to do? What scares me, and it's sad, is a lot of people aren't doing what they wanted to do, and the world is fucking full. It is chock full of people that didn't want to do the things they wanted to do. And then here comes social media, and where you're sitting on the toilet, you're taking a shit, you're waiting for dinner to cook, you're waiting for the dryer to stop so you can fold the clothes, and you're looking at social media, you're looking at Facebook. You got these young rappers, you got Dan Bilzerian, you got people that just they through one way or another have found a way to do what they do, and before they were 25 years old have made a lot of money, and they're living this life, and then you compare that to your life and you become super fucking sad. And because of interest rates and because of bills and because of you're mad at what Trump said and you hate Obama and you fucking, this isn't fair, and I have a lot of things to say because the internet's giving me a microphone, and you forget that when you were 12 or 13 you wanted to own a titty bar, you wanted to be a stand-up comic, you wanted to be a veterinarian, you wanted to go out into the world with a fresh face and be happy. And you wanted to contribute, and you wanted to do something that in your mind that you said, this is going to make sense, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be known for it, and I'm going to be happy. And all I'm saying is, because the trash truck can pick up your fucking garbage tote and dump it into the back of the truck without the person even having to get out into the cold, into the rain, and lift that heavy tote, we might be coming within a couple 100 miles of a society where fucking people You get to create.
I don't know. To me, it sounds like we're coming into a fucking society where people live on the outside, in the fucking fringes and tattered fucking rags, and they come and scrape the garbage heaps looking for, a few things they can take home, sell, trade, and eat.
I mean, I know people so
But
cynicism.
Don't worry about it though, because out there in the tribal lands, rent is going to be controlled. So they're gonna be okay.
Cynicism, and I'm saying this from me personally. I'm not projecting. Cynicism is a warm, comfortable blanket to wrap yourself in. And it's so the cliche phrase, it's always darkest before the dawn. But I think that we're heading into an era where it's like, okay, bro, we're all smart enough. There's enough smart people. There's enough ingenuity where we can push buttons and the things that we had to do no longer have to be manned by people putting in long hours and being sad and missing their families and breaking their backs and sweating and being uncomfortable and having that. I personally think every person has that moment of panic while they're at work. If you do a labor-intensive job where you have that moment of panic where you're like, fuck, I have another 7 hours of this. And it bubbles up, but you suppress it. And you're like, oh, okay. But it's still there, sitting like stomach acid at the top of your esophageal flap.
It's just it's called responsibility and lack of option in the moment. You know what I mean? Like if a nigga's really seen a way out, 90% of the fucking workforce will drag up overnight. You know what I mean? But
could you imagine though?
They're consumed by the responsibility. So responsibility is the new form of slavery, right? So if you create an environment where your basic needs are met, you might actually be able to prosper because you're no longer focused on feeding and housing the family. You know what I mean? So if that need itself is met, you might have the opportunity and option to be creative and problem solve.
Well, look at like so there's an entire industry based on making millions of dollars of just simply finding people a place to live.
Yeah.
Right? And all I'm saying is it can continue on. Realtors can make millions of dollars. They can all be happy. They can be smiling, Aquanet hairsprayed fucking vacuous bitches with tons of makeup and guys in fucking and $12,000 suits with fucking pearly white veneer smiles. Hey, let's find you. Sean knows La Jolla. Let's find you a house, right?
Yeah.
But what if that need was met?
Mm-hmm.
What if finding a house and escrow and closure and you can't touch your money for 60 days, it has to sit in the bank, and all these government regulations? Because keep in mind, these are all government regulations. There's a weird area of people that are like, I don't want the fuck government telling me what to do, but your job is 100% based on following required federal government regulations, which is it's a weird fucking place to be.
Yeah.
And our economy is based on that. Well, it's federal regulation that I do it in escrow and we blah blah blah. It's federal regulation that I have this money sitting in the bank for 60 days. And then they go home, have a couple glasses of wine. They're like, the fuck government shouldn't tell me what to do. Look at the oil field, bro. Look at the oil field. The same people. I've worked in the oil field, so I've met these people. They're like, the fuck government, I got a Second Amendment. Government shouldn't tell us what to do. Their entire job is based on not spilling oil waste on the ground because it's an environmental disaster. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's that weird place that we exist in. And people like you and me and my mother and my father and people I know, they go to work And they're torn between, I don't want the government telling me what to do, but 100% of my job is the government telling me what to do. What if there weren't so many nebulous amount of government regulation that instead of setting $10 million per day to Israel, instead of subsidizing corporate oil, instead of the Papa John's CEO making fucking $900,000 per day of capital gains, if that money was rerouted, if we daylighted that river to cover the basic needs. Now, not to say that innovation wouldn't still exist. There will still be the concept of like the guy that Papa John's works harder and he thinks smarter and he'll get ahead of the game, because ultimately we're human beings, and if I'm a harder worker, I want to have a better place than you. I want to be away from people like you that don't care. That will still exist. But if I didn't have to come home every day and go, fuck, I only worked 7 hours today, how am I going to pay my rent at the end of the month? And it's not I didn't pull myself up by the bootstraps. It's the fact that I live at the tip of a peninsula, which is surrounded on three sides by water. And I have very limited resources. I can't spend a lot on gas. I have to pay rent. I have to feed my children. It's irrelevant if I made those choices to have children. That's the way the fucking life is. That's a moot point to start attacking people. Well, it's the choices you made up to that point. I fucked a woman. I came inside her. I had children. Now I'm choosing to take care of them. But interest rates are drowning me. I'm trying to have a vehicle that gets from point A to point B without breaking down every week. What if that stuff was gone? And you had a whole society of people that could decide what they want.
It's a fine line, though, man. That I believe in a lot of it, but I also understand the reality is that is super, super murky water once you start wading in it. You know what I mean? That's a dangerous, slippery slope, man.
Here, I'm throwing my hand in the air.
Go ahead.
All I'm saying is, so I've had these conversations before. People say it's a slippery slope. It's dangerous.
It is super
The
dangerous.
only examples we have are Soviet Russia. Where it's like a bunch of very greedy, selfish men who had no love for their country or people, were looking out for themselves.
I don't know. There's a few examples,
Because I don't think there.
I don't have it in front of me. But I think that's the human condition. You have the hope, the what if, the inspire, the mass security and stuff. It's not a bad thing to think and feel those things, but the reality is that humans are corrupt by nature, and any time that you give an opportunity of a hand up, it's usually a knife coming with it.
And I agree.
Nature, man.
I 100% agree. So I'll give you a good example. Have you ever heard of the Glass-Steagall Act?
No, not directly.
The Glass-Steagall Act, and a lot of people should know this. It's very important. The Glass-Steagall Act was enacted after the 1920s. I don't know the exact date. I'm going to look it up real quick. After the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Right? And so basically what Glass-Steagall did, it was in 1933 in the wake of the 1929 stock market crash. It was enacted by Congress that essentially, in layman terms, limited the risky behavior through Wall Street to engage in risky investments, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at the history of America, so from 1933 until 1994, I'll get to that in a second, that's when people say America was at its greatest, right? When we invented great big things, and we were just great men, and we did big things, and people made money, and people could afford 2 chickens in every pot, and people could have a car in every garage. It's because we put a fucking limit and I'll say this, on the overly smart, wily people who are like, well, I can figure out, if there's 1,000 people, I can figure out how to make myself tons of money off those 1,000 people. And those 1,000 people are regular people like you and me that are trying to provide for our families, trying to pay our rent, trying to pay our electricity, trying to put gas in our car. Yeah. And there's always one guy that's like, I can make millions of dollars off those 1,000 people. The Glass-Steagall Act essentially put a regulation on that one guy that made tons of money off those thousands of people. Yeah. So from 1933 until 1994, when Bill Clinton, a Democrat, repealed it because there was a Republican Congress, and, I think it's a good idea, right? Because he's a corrupt motherfucker. Took a bunch of money. Wall Street's like, well, Bear Stearns like, well, okay, here's 100,000. We should talk about getting rid of Glass-Steagall because I want to put all this money into fucking unjustified, into short sales, right? Repeal Glass-Steagall in 1994. In 1994, Glass-Steagall was almost directly the result of the 2008 housing market crash. Which led us to the point where people like you and me in the same age bracket essentially lost our ability to have the American dream of buying a home. Now you have to have a 700 credit score. You got to have 330 grand in the bank that has to be sitting there for 90 days. Like, fuck it, bro. Go ahead and rent. Right?
Yeah. That's horrendous.
So if we took the people, the smart, rich people who are in power, and we turned all that government regulation that we live under, you got to have a certain amount of weed on you. You can't collect rainwater on your property. If we directed that at the quote unquote smart people that are like, well, for every 1,000 people, I can make millions of dollars. If we put that dog collar on those people on Wall Street, at the very tip of the pyramid, the people who try to claim that, well, I'm a job creator, which is a false bullshit concept of like wealth and privilege. I'm a job creator. People like Trump, people like Clinton. If we put a fucking net over those people, like Glass-Steagall was, and made it harder for them to just roll the dice, which at the stroke of a pen, they can affect thousands of people, and focus the government directive. Now, I'm not talking Ayn Rand, because you have a weird percentage of America, a bunch of blue collar dumb shit workers who are like, well, Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, the rich people will just leave. No, the rich people are taking full advantage of you. They are taking full fucking advantage of you. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act benefited the 1%. It didn't benefit America.
Right.
It did not benefit you and me.
The only thing that you really define there is that you've created the understanding that the two parties are the same. That's what you.
No, they definitely are.
So it's very difficult. But the only way the illusion stays alive is that the American people believe that there's a difference and a great white savior, no matter the color or the party he represents, and whatever. And then about every time the people are getting fed up, we switch parties. Like, the nation switch parties and switch parties and switch parties. And
here,
everyone's gonna save them. Everyone's gonna save them, but all we do is push the buck. That's all we do.
I'll even make it. I'll even simplify it with this statement. Government regulation should be directed to the one person for every million citizens, as opposed to the million citizens per every one person. Yeah. So instead of looking, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's absolutely true, so I'm going to keep going with it. So if you look at Donald Trump, in my personal opinion, who is a very rich man who's been in the public eye for decades and who knows how to sway public opinion, more government regulation should be on that one man who, with the swipe of a pen, can affect 10,000 people, then it should be those 10,000 people.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I'll even say Clinton. I'll say Papa John CEO. I'll say fucking T-Bone Pickens.
Yeah.
And that guy just died. T-Boone Pickens. That guy just died. He was the dude who had that whole concept of shareholders first. Well, the shareholders should come before just regular people. Clinton, I'm not giving a lot of credit to Clinton. He did good thing. Every president does good things.
Yeah, but the majority of his presidency was fucking horrendous. Okay, he created a catastrophic fucking for-profit prison industry.
And he did. He did.
Fucking
And
monster that it
Joe
is.
Biden wrote a lot of it.
Yeah, so they're fucking wieners, and if they were honorable, they'd probably eat a bullet. And that's what I'm saying about integrity and honor and stuff. You know what I mean? And it's like, look, I was a bad person. I did bad things. But I reached a point of reason where maturity caught up with my understanding of the world, and I learned to apply myself in different ways. You know what I mean? And make penance for the things that I did. And then on the level of things they did, they should definitely eat a fucking bullet for what they've done.
If you look
I'm
back
not
at
saying to go cause physical harm. I'm saying that if they had integrity and any honorable bone in their body, that they would handle themselves. That's what I'm saying.
well, if you look at if you look back during Clinton's presidency, what he put a cap, and I'm, knowing his history and the history of people like him, he put a cap on salary CEO, or CEO salary. Sorry, I've been drinking. So he put a cap at it was either $1 million or so many millions of dollars that a publicly traded CEO of a publicly traded company could make, right? And in that same time frame, that's when they started offering stock options. Mm-hmm. So who's that fucker from Apple? Steve Jobs?
Yeah.
His salary was like $1 per year.
Yeah.
But he had $10 million in stock options.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a loophole. That was a loophole.
Yeah.
And like I said before, when these guys are rubbing their dicks in front of a mirror in their gated private communities and they're saying, I'm a job creator. Well, no. You just found a way to get ahead off the backs of the so it goes back to how the federal government is. It's made of government for the people, by the people, of the people. Well, every company in America, I don't care who the fuck you are, every company in America is out of the people, by the people, for the people, regardless of how your corporate structure is. The CEO of Radio Shack, I would bet my left fucking testicle does not know how, or it's not existent anymore, but did not know how to fucking fix a radio. No. Do you think Papa John Shatner can go in and fucking, without a recipe, you take some flour and some salt and some yeast and some water and make some fucking dough and make a pizza? Probably not. But he has an Ivy League degree. He has an MBA. He knows how to he knows how to do a PowerPoint. He knows how to sit in a corporate meeting with shareholders. He knows how to talk numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is the trash truck can pick up your tote and dump it into the truck without the fucking driver getting out whatsoever. So he can sit in there, listen to music. He can eat his food. And he does not have to strain himself. Maybe it's time that we are such a whatever. America's great. We're all great. We're great people. 2020 people want to keep America great. So obviously a large percentage think America's fucking great. Well, if we're so great, if there's just endless money flowing around, as a person I know, the phrase they used, an economic paradise, then we need to figure out a better way to where we don't have to have the kids who can't eat hot lunch because of the student debt. Because we have college students getting out of college with $100,000 in debt, where there's families who have to make harsh decisions because the rent's a hard concept based on a landlord who has to pay so much in property taxes, only for it to what? Not be apparently present to us. The money that comes out of our paycheck, the money that comes out of that we spend in property taxes. Where do I see that? If I buy an ounce of marijuana for $100 and I sell it for $150, I immediately see that $150. I see that $50 profit. Where are my taxes going to where it's like, okay, where are my federal taxes going where I'm seeing this benefit me? We're talking about slashing Social Security. We're talking about slashing Medicare. Where is my money going that I can fucking snap my fingers and see it? Oh, we live in a society where we're supposed to go, well, it's just down the line. It's just. And it's a weird pseudo-socialist fucking, well, ultimately it's supposed to benefit everybody. Well, that sounds like socialism, and I thought we hated socialism. If $315 of my check goes to fucking all this shit, should I not be able to draw from it? Should I not be able to see it immediately? Because if not, I could use that $315 for something that would benefit me and my family personally. If we're trying to be libertarian here, is all I'm saying. Praise Allah. So.
Yeah. I think you ought to thank our sponsors and.
Yeah, I gotta go cook some burritos, bro.
Yeah,
Build that wall.
I ain't. The wife's gonna make biscuits and gravy.
Oh God, I love biscuits and gravy. So shout out to the Koch Brothers Industries. Thanks for cultivating the anti-climate change argument. Shout out to Bear Stearns. Shout out to Ace Hardware. Shout out to Chernobyl Parks and Recreations. Yeah. I think that everybody that listens to this, I think you and me, I think we can, all I'm saying is, dude, that's all I'm saying. If you're going to boil it down to anything, all I'm saying is we can do better. Far better.
Without a doubt.
Far fucking better. We're all a large percentage of us are ambitious. We are hard workers. You and I will both fucking stand in the rain, and we will push shovels and we will do shit. That's not an issue. But we, as a society, deserve better for everyone. Mr. President, no woman should be able to turn down a hookup with a man who has an uncircumcised penis. He said that I don't know. I didn't watch it. So shout out to our sponsor. Shout out to anybody that listens. 31st episode, Repeat Offender Podcast. Check us out. Spotify, YouTube, Cast, Stitcher, Apple Podcast. Anywhere that you can find somebody to do it. Thanks to Tommy Buns for being there. Thanks to anybody that's ever supported us. And remember, no matter what happens, if you're just trying to live your life and somebody's fucking with you, if the man in blue comes up with his shiny silver badge and he starts giving you direction, never ever go quietly. Peace.